Let me bring Ozzie Jurock in here. He'll always brighten things up. But actually, today's topic I wanted to ask you about, Ozzie, isn't that cheerful? Because I was reading in the news that, some of these big sort of pre-sale deals that went down. The one I'm thinking of is what was called the Vaughan deal in Ontario. It was 1,100 buyers, but there's been others. I mean, what happens when one of these sort of pre-sale deals goes under?
Yeah, like the whole idea of pre-sales is good because the developer has to sell 50 to 60% to get financing, so he gets it. The buyer pays 10 to 20% down and waits 1 or 2 years and then gets, hopefully rising market the benefit. But what we forget is that in Ontario alone last year, 9 condo projects were canceled. That meant the buyers got, in most cases, their money back. But it isn't just in Ontario. I mean, on Cambie Street, a developer just claiming that he couldn't get approval from the city in time gave back and canceled a 72-unit luxury project. And in Murrayville and Langley, there's a project that owes approximately $62 million, and there's all sorts of argument on fraud and whatnot. And the key is a lot of these units were sold once, twice. So you can imagine the mess. And so there's some things people have to realize. Not all pre-sales are good.
Well, let me talk more about that because it is popular, and plus, some people are in there. They take the pre-sale, they want to live there, and they want to they want to lock in sort of a market price at that time. So let's talk a little bit about that. Do you have some rules, for example, that I should be paying attention to if I am considering a pre-sale?
Yeah, you see, that's the key point you made, is because I put down my money thinking in 2 years I get a condo, and maybe in 2 years I just get my deposit back, or I have to fight over it. That wasn't really my bargain. I lost all that time. So you got to, number one, check out the developer. How much development has he done before? Can you see and look a building he's built? Is he from offshore? What's his reputation? That's number one. Number two, what are the amenities? Usually the more elaborate the building amenities, the more expensive it is to build, and the more expensive the starter fees too. Could be problems down the road. Check out the parking. It's funny, some of the newer buildings don't even have a parking spot, or a parking spot that's so small you can only park an Evo in it. So you want to check those things out. What is the view like? And you go to City Hall if necessary, because the building might look nice now, and where you are in view, I know buildings that are 20 stories high and never thought there would anything be in front, and hey, guess what? There is. And what are the warranties that the builder has, and the various things on the flooring and so on. The key is, of course, take a look at everything. Don't be pressured in that pre-sale excitement because you're standing in line and then all of a sudden you bought a unit where when you open the window there's an outdoor vent, or you're buying it over the garage. There's a reason you don't want to do this, because the garage door goes up and down, or the front door when George says, "Hello, Mike," and it goes up 6 floors, every single day. So there's some things you look at and you can do a little bit of research on, but the key is check out the developer.
Yeah, and those warranties are kind of interesting too, with the type of finishing you might get. I mean, did you want granite countertops in your kitchen and you got plywood? I mean, I guess it's just the more specific the detail of what you're buying is, the better it is. As you say, every detail.
Don't be shy. Take your camera. Take a picture of every nook and cranny in the show suite, because you're very right. The question on what quality is in the developer's mind and maybe what quality is in your mind is different, but the show suite should show what you also is the finished product.
And it just must be such a nightmare when as I say, I was just reading these things. You follow them every day, but I'm reading these, deal goes through. People, at the very least, maybe they get their money back. They've lost any interest they could have, but they're now out in the market while the market may have moved on them. Especially, obviously, we're talking condos, and condos been the strong side of the market. So, it really pays not to get swept up and do your homework.
Exactly. Particularly the Murrayville project apparently had some 3 levels pre-sales, right? So the owner, then another one assigned and assigned. It's a mess.
Wow. Okay, on that, we're really having a cheerful show with Michael Levy talking about people, the home equity credit lines, and Joseph Schachter talking about the fallout from, the Kinder Morgan decision to put things on hold. He says already it's literally billions of dollars leaving the country. And now we've come to the cheerful Ozzie Jurock. But what you're doing is the right thing, Ozzie. You're protecting us along the way. So let's finish on a cheerful note here. What about the hot properties?
We got a great deal on Harrison Hot Springs. It's an almost new half a duplex with 2 suites, in really great conditions, separate entrances, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, garage, and so on. It's on at $569,000. And at the other end on the spectrum in Prince George, a 3-bedroom townhouse for only $79,000. So those are hot properties this week.
Well, and of course, at your Land Rush conference, you gave out 100 properties under 100 grand, which just brings me very quickly to one last thing. Is that, it's interesting. We've allowed the Vancouver, Greater Vancouver, Toronto areas to absolutely dominate not just real estate discussion, but policy, because there's still lots of affordability. It's just not in those areas. There's so many beautiful places to live throughout the country. In this case, we're talking British Columbia. But come on, 3-bedroom townhouse, 79 grand in Prince George, and you don't have to drive over the Lionsgate Bridge in rush hour.
That's right, and there's so many more. Well, you've got to do some work, but Ronald Reagan said it's true that hard work never killed anybody, but he said, I figure, why take the chance?
I'm with you. Ozzie Jurock, go to Jurock, Jurock.com. Chat with you next week, Ozzie.